You know what I'm going to say. Alright, alright, alright.
Alright, alright, alright.
So, welcome to Articulate Warbling. I'm Laura. That wasn't that funny. I'm reviewing The Dark Tower. An adaptation, not really, of Stephen King's long-ass, beloved Western fantasy science fiction book series that started with The Gunslinger. If you're a fan of Stephen King, you know those famous words. I love the Dark Tower series. It's dense, it's mythical, it has so many different elements, and Stephen King best summarises it as it's every genre. You can come into this series, whether you like westerns or you don't have affinity for science fiction, there's fantasy, there are disparate elements. It is so dense. And in as much as people loathed or outright disliked his latter half of the series, I think post 1980 or post 1990, Stephen King got hit by a car and then it kind of shook him up, and his first epiphany was, wow, he's got to write about it.
Oh my God, Stephen King! Ah! Hey, this would make a neat story. Done.
And then it was, I need to finish The Dark Tower. People keep asking me, are you going to finish it? There are some elements of the book series that I really dislike, like taking other iconography from other books, specifically Harry Potter, Star Wars. I felt the meta, I wouldn't say humour, but the meta elements didn't work for me. Initially I didn't like the meta elements where Stephen King became the sole focus, but then in Song of Susanna, leading out into the seventh and final book, The Dark Tower, it kind of culminated perfectly. And this film series has been in development hell for years. So let's rewind and start at the beginning. The Dark Tower has had an extremely long, lengthy development process in Hollywood, stretching back decades. Years and years, and multiple times it's been close to being greenlit officially. The information I'm going to provide you following is sourced from Wikipedia, but it's information I feel necessary to include in this review. First of all, J.J. Abrams' involvement from 2007 to 2009. By early February 2007, a film adaptation of the Dark Tower series was in the works. J.J. Abrams, co-creator of the television series Lost, was said to be attached to produce and direct. Now, this is my opinion. At this time of his career, I think he would have done a good job. Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof, who co-created Lost with Abrams, optioned The Dark Tower from King for a reported amount of $15, a number that mysteriously recurs throughout the series. According to issue 923 of Entertainment Weekly, King is an ardent supporter of Lost and trusts Abrams to translate his vision into a film franchise, with Lindelof being the leading candidate to write the screenplay for the first instalment. Now, this is me talking. Lindelof, we all know, is a skilled writer. Sometimes he gets lost in his own molasses of ideas and intentions. Abrams, since all of this, has produced numerous King adaptations, specifically for television. It is around this time that Marvel Comics launched their graphic novel adaptation, The Dark Tower, with The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger born. Later, in March 2007, Abrams noted in an interview with Wired that the project is something that we are just now talking about with Stephen, so it's too early for me to say that we're even officially doing it yet, just because the thing is in the early stages of discussion. A year later, in February 2008, Abrams reiterated that the Dark Tower adaptation was in the early stages of development when interviewed by Reel's channel. When interviewed by AMC in September 2008, Abrams admitted that the project needs time he does not have because of Lost, especially since he would like to see a 7-film series. The 8th novel was published in 2012, which was not a novel per se. This is me talking, Zach now. It was more of a short story collection set in the world. However, in May 2009, Abrams stated to IGN that he and Lindelof were planning on beginning work on The Dark Tower as soon as Lost finished its run. Speaking to MTV News around the same time, Lindelof revealed some apprehension regarding the project, noting that his reverence for Stephen King is now getting in the way of what any good writer would do first when they're adapting a book, which is take creative license. In a July 2009 interview with C2, One Media, Lindelof revealed that he and Hughes had indeed optioned the rights for The Dark Tower, but he said he was wary about committing to such an ambitious project. Lindelof is quoted saying, "The idea of taking on something that massive again after having done 6 seasons of Lost is intimidating and slightly frightening, to say the least." With these reservations being voiced by the producers, this initial phase of the project came to an end at the end of 2009 after 3 years, since this was a 3-year option. In an interview with USA Today in October 2009, Damon Lindelof stated, "You'll be hard-pressed to find a huger fan of The Dark Tower than me. That's probably the reason that I shouldn't be the one to adapt it. After working 6 years on Lost, the last thing I want to do is spend the next 7 years adapting one of my favourite books of all time. I'm such a massive Stephen King fan that I'm terrified of screwing it up. I'd do anything to see those movies written by someone else. My guess is they will get made because they're so incredible, but not by me." Finally, in November 2009, Abrams stated that he would not be adapting the series. So it was a series! During an interview with MTV News, Abrams made the following comment. "The Dark Tower thing is tricky. The truth is that Damon and I are not looking at that right now." Now we are going to cover the Ron Howard years. Ron Howard and Universal Pictures, 2010 to 2015. In April 2010, 5 months after Abrams revealed he would no longer pursue his adaptation of The Dark Tower, Universal Pictures was set to produce a trilogy of feature films, alternating with 2 seasons of a television series to bridge gaps between the films. The involved parties included Akiva Goldsman writing the script, Ron Howard directing. By this point, I was excited. And also producing with Brian Grazer and Stephen King. The report was made official by NBC Universal 5 months later via a press release dated September 8th, 2010. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly following the announcement, King stated that, "I always thought it would take more than a single movie. I didn't see the solution coming, i.e. several movies and TV series. It was Ron and Akiva's idea. Once it was raised, I thought at once it was a solution." Terrible Stephen King impersonation. A month later, the first Dark Tower film was scheduled to open on May 17th, 2013. In 2010, Howard offered the following in regards to the project's progress. "It is going well, and it has been incredibly stimulating to work on. I really can't stop thinking about it. We've been meeting and talking, I've been reading and researching, just kind of living with it. I hope it goes great. I hope it goes the way we think it will. It never does, really, but sometimes it goes better." See, even there, Howard isn't really strong with his convictions. Something's not aligning. That wasn't from Wikipedia, that was from my mouth. Despite Howard's enthusiasm, Universal had not yet greenlit the project at that point. By the end of 2010 and the beginning of 2011, New York Post was reporting that Javier Bardem and Viggo Mortensen were in line to play the lead character of Roland Deschain, and Naomi Harris was being considered for the character of Susanna Dean. Okay, that's exciting. Speaking on the Howard Stern Show in January 2011, and qualifying his words with the phrase, "I don't know if it's going to happen or not," Howard said that after the first film, which would be more action-oriented, a 6-episode television miniseries would follow, focusing more on character-driven drama. You know what, this whole planning and mapping out is quite ingenious, but something like this hasn't been done, and I don't think it will ever be done properly. For his part, Brian Grazer stated around the same time that a casting announcement could be made within a week. By April 2011, Mark Verheiden was joining the television portion of the project as executive producer and Akiva Goldsman as co-writer. That same month, Javier Bardem was cast in the role of Roland. However, just a month later, a report in Variety revealed that Universal may seek another studio's help, as the project's budget appeared to be more than willing to handle. Hollywood Reporter wrote later that the project was on the verge of turnaround, and Warner Brothers or Columbia Pictures could potentially take the project on, revealing that Universal had paid $5 million for the rights. Shortly after that, Universal committed to a lower budget for the project, and Goldsman began rewriting the script to reflect these changes. Originally, production was slated to begin in September 2011, but in May 2011, it was being pushed back to February 2012, or early spring. The project was still not greenlit by the studio, which had to happen by July 2011. Then, on July 18th, 2011, Universal decided to cancel development of the entire project due to budgetary concerns. Red flags. Always red flags. Despite this, Stephen King was confident Howard would see the project through, stating that he was "sorry, Universal passed, but not really surprised. I bear them no ill will, and trust Ron Howard to get Roland and his friends before the camera somewhere else. is very committed to the project. In August 2011, Howard stated that they're trying to get outside financing to make it and distribute it for a major studio, including the fact that Netflix might be an outlet, and I think they're the better outlet now if they want to go do something on this level. Later in October 2011, Howard confirmed the adaptation is still on track, noting that HBO will now carry the television portion of the project, something they could still do. By March 2012, Warner Brothers were expressing interest in taking on the project. Several months later, Goldsman delivered a new script for the first film to Warner Brothers, and the studio had to make a decision in August 2012 whether to go ahead with the project. As well, Russell Crowe was being talked about as the lead character. Ugh. On August 20th, 2012, Warner Brothers officially passed. Fucking hell. At the same time, Media Rights Capital, MRC, was in talks to take over the project from Warner. In January 2014, Aaron Paul stated that he had a conversation with Howard and was possibly being considered to play Eddie Dean. Oh, that would have been great. I remember that tweet and I got really hyped. Earlier, in October 2012, Paul had tweeted that the role of Eddie Dean was a huge dream of his. Following that, a rumour appeared that Liam Neeson was interested in the part of Roland. Right. Let's go back to the present. The Dark Tower came out in 2017, and it just didn't appeal to me. When the initial report that Idris Elba was going to play Roland Deschain, look, pronounce it however the fuck you want. I hate people who are persnickety like, whatever is easier for you. And my God, Matthew.
Alright.
McConaughey, post his reconnaissance, playing the Man in Black, Walter. Perfect casting. The greatest issue being they're condensing a 7-book series. They're condensing what initially was going to be a trilogy of films and at least 7 television series worth of material into a 94-minute movie. 80 minutes if you don't include the credits. What surprised me the most was it's competently directed. There are some really beautiful production designs. I really like the science fiction elements. The aesthetic and the relation of the scientific elements didn't work for me in relation to the Dark Tower. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you're being prissy because you're too beholden to the book. I mean, if you're going to adapt the book, try and source and uphold its essence. There is a lot of issues here. Budgetarily, it's constrained. It cost $66 million to film. This isn't including, of course, marketing and the fee you pay to be put on screens. The overall result was it bombed. King was very adamant that it was because it wasn't R-rated. I don't think it's to do with that. I think it's to do with the people with whom worked on it for so long. Akiva Goldsman and Ron Howard. The passion was there and King believed in them. And then they got Nicolas Jarcel on board. Someone who hadn't made a movie of this breadth, of this scope. The issue is the script. I don't think it's the directing. A lot of negativity had been thrust on the director saying you didn't know what you're coping with, you didn't know what you're making. It seems apparent to me that the director knew what he was doing, especially in the special features on the Blu-ray. And even though there's a passion with Akiva Goldsman, that guy could be passionate about a toxic nuclear fallout possessing turd and it still doesn't change it. Whatever Akiva Goldsman's passionate about, he's always going to ruin it. He has those fingers. What he touches just rots. Overall, from the casting, Tom Taylor, pick or choose, this young actor. At the time, he's not a young actor anymore. There he is as a young boy. There he is as an older person. Holy fuck, kid, you changed. Competent, for me, he isn't my Jake. And I know that this is also a pseudo-sequel and it feeds into the cyclical nature of the Dark Tower and the Quartet and all such and sundry, but as a movie outside of the Dark Tower, it's a competent sci-fi western, but it also suffers from generic action movie beats, some impressive visual touches, but it was just condensed budgetarily and story-wise. You can't get all of this and put it into this package. Matthew McConaughey, you could get a sense in the special features, he went, I think people are going to like this, alright, because outside of it being part of the franchise, alright, which we all know this movie is not going to be, alright, it is a good contained piece of cinema, alright, and I think it kind of prefigured this ain't going to be a franchise, but as its own little isolated movie, maybe. And you can get a sense that this movie was made for the fans, that, okay, if we can't give them the adaptation, let's give them something. And I think King and the creative people were like, we just need to get the Dark Tower in some form on screen. It's been in development hell for too long. We just need to get this made. And it was a failure. Outside of the Dark Tower and Stephen King and all of those connections, cut those ties, it's a competent film. There were discussions where they were like, look, we're not making a movie on the levels that these certain movies do, but you do get that grandiosity in certain sequences. But I think that they cut certain elements budgetarily, action-wise, because, I don't know, there was one part of the interviews on the special features on the Blu-ray where the director was like, we didn't have the budget to do all of these things, these flying stunts, but instead you had enough money to insert flying CGI, poorly rendered, weird animal creatures. Use that budget for all of these weird creatures in action sequences that are underwhelming. As underwhelming as anything in that Aragorn adaptation. It's got that Aragorn adaptation feeling. The intent is there, but it's just not pure, it's not true, it's a condensed, filtered version. This felt tonally so akin to Aragorn in the stilted dialogue, in the execution, in the cinematography. It almost felt like it was from the same production crew. It was almost as if they were like, oh, let's just make Aragorn and the Dark Tower. At the same time, it had that feeling of, yeah, it's a film. It's a film. There's not enough callbacks to the novels, but they can't do that because the general audience doesn't understand. Now, my issue with the casting is with Idris Elba. The stoicism and the form and the muscle and the heft and looking good in the costume, that's one thing, but he doesn't really attain something for me. That's Roland. And it's not about colour. I don't even think Stephen King had a notion of colour in the book, so it's very wide and open for anyone, whether you're Asian, Korean, black, mixed race. This character is a multi-dimensional skipping character. He can be any creed, breed, any ethnicity, or part of any minority. But Idris Elba, he looks the part, he isn't the part, because there's nothing there. There's no meat on the bones. It's bland, it's ashen. As ashen as Jake Chambers' mother in this film. I thought it was quite good. Unless you've seen the film, you don't understand. Yeah, it's very underwhelming. But I ended up just sitting back and going, this isn't that bad. And then leaning forward and going, no, this is quite bad. No, it's not that bad. Alright. No. So for me, as a Stephen King adaptation, or trying to attain an essence, or a projection, or a personification of, anything that at this point scrambling like, we need to get Dark Tower on the big screen.
When can I have it?
They failed. But take that away, some elements are really hefty. Some of the story elements are there and they are the strength of it, but they don't use it to their advantage. Or say, Jackie O'Haley, fire agent, what the fuck are you doing, man? Since Watchmen, you haven't got any decent roles. It's kind of heartbreaking. Are you joking me? Anyway. That's me. adaptation. It isn't a competent film. I mean, certain feats that they achieve is impressive for the budget. Some character designs, as in creatures and environments, are good, others are bad. It's underwhelming. I remember I attempted to watch this, not me myself, but my ex was like, "I'll just watch it, it's up there, it's for free, it's illegal," and I'm like, I don't watch illegal films, and it started and the quality was so shoddy, and I thought genuinely was just like, no. Also, I get bad vibes. The film isn't as bad as some would have you believe, but it isn't good. I'm very conflicted. The intent was there, even as bad. The intention's there, even if the intention is from Akiva Goldsman. They wanted to do their best and they just couldn't achieve it. This deserves HBO involvement. This deserves Netflix involvement. Can't tell this story in a condensed 80-minute movie. Even when that initial runtime came out, it's like red flags, red flags, red flags. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Remember to like, share, and ultimately subscribe to Articulate Warbling. Thank you. Now fuck off.
All right.